perspectives.
Hello, girls. Good night. I hope you're doing well. Today, I'm going to talk about what is feminism. Feminism started because women began to notice that they didn't have the same rights as men. So in this presentation, I'll be talking about a little bit of the history of feminism when movement of women started. Then I'm going to talk about a little bit of the history of feminism here in Guatemala, and lastly, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my own experience about being feminist here in Guatemala. So I'm going to move to the next. Okay. I think that it's important to say that many people have a grown idea about what feminism is. Some ideas like people think that feminists wanted to kill men, for example, or they wanted to be like men. And that's why I think it's important to talk about it, because there is a difference, a huge difference about what people think and what feminism is. So as I say at the beginning, feminism started to think about the rights of women, and that's why when we try to talk about the history of feminism, we talk about waves. The feminism in the history has four waves in the time in the lifetime, and it begins in the 18th century, a few years ago, so many years ago. The first wave started with these two women in the Enlightenment. Um, that woman, the first one that you see here, I don't know if you can see my point. Yeah, she was Olympe de Gaulle, and the other she was Mary Wollstonecraft. Olympe de Gaulle was a woman that um, she was French, and she started to read the Declaration of the Right of Men and of the Citizens, and she read all of this book, and she noticed that in this book didn't tell anything about women. So she took the book and rewrite it rewrite the book, and she put it the name of the book like the Declaration of the Rights of Women and Citizens, and vindicates women's rights. So it was the first action of feminism in the history, but it has consequences because she was beheaded. No, she was murdered about because of the government in that time in France. So yeah, it was she was really important in the history of feminism, because she had the first action, radical action, but she was murdered. And Mary Wollstonecraft, she wrote the Vindication of the Right of Women, and she says that the difference between gender is not something natural, as they had been thinking, but something cultural, something that is produced through education. That's why she focused on education, and she tried to avoid this difference of gender in the education. So in the second wave, we have this famous movement of suffragism, it started in USA with three important women. There was Lucretia Mott and Candy, no, two important women, sorry, Lucretia Mott and Candy Staton. They traveled to France to Congress about human rights, but they weren't listened. So they have to come back, and they started to do actions and protest and something like that for having the right to vote. And at the same time, in England, a group of women started to do actions, but more stronger than in USA, because they started to put bombs, or they started to do hunger protests and a lot of things. And that for that women, that way it begins a specific techniques of war. They, because they put these bombs in specific places, and yeah, it was like a terrorism attack, but they were women because they wanted to get the right to vote, and they did it. They started this movement, and that's why they could vote. But in that time, they just the women that can vote, there was just white women, and it has to have 30 years old, and they have to know how to write and read. So it wasn't that wasn't access to all the women. So that's why the third wave of the feminism started with Betty Friedman. She talks about the feminine mystique, no, that we have an intuition, and we have this sixth sense. um, uh, she said that the problem, when she talks about feminine mystique, she tell us that the problem that has no name, no, that she knew that being woman is a problem, no. And with this kind with these theories and this new knowledge, there started to appear other kind of feminism, because there is a Flora Tristan. She was a socialist woman that says that the proletarian of that women are the proletarian of the proletarians. Because she was a socialist feminist, so she has this orientation about Marx says. So she was talking about two ways to this kind of double exclusion, because the poor people are poor, but poor women are they have two exclusion, just for not it's just for being poor, it's just for being a poor woman. So there started to appear a lot of feminism, because it depends about the necessities of women around the world, no, because we are totally different. So we need to have a feminism that represents us. That's why now we know a lot of movement of feminism. So in the fourth wave, that is like right now, that in the time that we have a lot of feminism in around the world for a specific need, no, because Black women have different needs, white women have different needs, Indigenous women have the different needs. So now I'm going to tell you a little bit about the movement, this movement here in Guatemala, we know that March 8th and now in November 25, we have in March 8th, we have the commemoration about the Woman Day, and in November 25, we have the day of abolition, or the against women's, no, the violence against women, women rights. So there are a lot of groups of women that support women around the country for all the necessities that we have. And it began in the 90s that the first group of women started to do some movements here, and after that they were growing up, and then we noticed that we are around the country now doing something to have our rights, about our bodies, about our decisions, about whatever thing that we need that guarantee our lives. So the last but not least is my experience being a feminist, because being a feminist changed my life and brought me many girlfriends, in the meaning that I have a lot of friends that I never imagined that I will have, because we have this thought about I have this thought that I prefer having friends, men, like boyfriends, because I just fight with women. So when I started to be in this movement, I realized that, yeah, it's a construction. Not everyone said that we can't be friends of a girl because it has a lot of problems. We criticize each other, and we can't combine in the same place. And I just realized that it's not true. It's a way to um, it's a way of manipulation, and it doesn't make sense for me now. So yeah, that is the best gift that feminism gave me. Um, in conclusion, feminism is important for women around the world. That's why there are a lot of ways of feminism. Here in Guatemala, feminism helps women that suffer violence of difficult situation, and feminism helps me to be a better woman. I have the history of the feminism in that page in YouTube about a video. It's really good, and that's me in a protest in the Transmetro. I was protesting by March 8th in 2019, I think. And thank you for listening. I don't know if you have a question, you can ask me.
Okay, Ale, I think that that kind of movements are really interesting, I think. And now we already know that you are feminist, but my question is, why are you feminist? And why do you think that being feminist is something good?
Okay, that's a good question. I feel that I started to be feminist after having a toxic relationship, because I was with a guy that he was crazy, really crazy, and I suffered psychological violence. So when I realized that I was in that trouble, for me was really painful, because I all my life I think that I thought that I took really good choices about my life, and I just didn't wanted to believe that I was passing for that things, no, that situation. Um, so I started read about romantic love, to read about why women suffer about violence or psychological violence. I I try to look for a solution by of my problem, no? And in that is research, I find girls, I find friends, and I just realized that I was living in a world that in a view of men, no? I saw me like a man saw me, no? And I just let that men do with me whatever they wanted to do, no? Not in a dramatic thing, no? It was not, it was bad, but not too bad like other women. But yeah, in that moment was when I said, okay, no more. And I started to empower myself and feel better with me. So that's why I decided that I wanted to be in the feminism, right? In the feminism side. And it's great because you learn how to uh, feel better with yourself. That is something that it helps me a lot. And as I say in my presentation, I knew a lot of women that are really gentle, or they are really lovely, and they helped me a lot to be the woman that I am today. So yeah, feminism, when I said that feminism changed my life, is because I know that today I'm a better person.
I'm really sorry that you happened for this situation, and I feel happy that you, I think that you have a kind of bravery for stay here and now and share your experience. And thank you, Ali.
Thank you.
Okay, Ale, I like it your presentation. I didn't have idea about like the whole story related to feminism. And you know, I watch a movie, and I don't know if have you ever watched it. The name is the Suffragette. And if you watch it, what is your opinion to that movie?
Yeah, I remember that I watched that movie, and I don't know, I think that I always had this light inside of me to be feminist, because I remember that this movie is kind of old. It's an old movie, and I think I wasn't feminist yet, but when I saw this movie, I just think about, oh my God, that women were so brave, and they really fight. They really put their body in the streets, no, to have the right that they wanted, no, the right that we need to have, or the right that we just have because we are humans. And I was like, oh, it was really shocking saw that movie, because it really inspires me to fight for the things that I want or I deserve.
Thank you so much for giving me your opinion.
Thank you too.
Ale, I would like to ask you if you do you have any feminism model?
There's something that there's a really good question, because there is something that I realized one time ago, because I really not sure if I wanted to get in just for a one feminism specifically, because for example, here in Guatemala, there are a lot. There are radical, there are like eco feminist. I don't know. There are a lot of ways to be feminist, But honestly, I just consider like the Guatemalan feminist, no, because I know a lot of the history, and I don't have like a group specifically. I have a mix of feminists in my soul. So yeah, I am that I am in that researcher. I'm looking for the way to be a feminist specifically, but I have to I don't know, be more deeper, being deeper with my research, I think, to say that I belong to one way to be a feminist.
Thank you, Ale, for your answer.
Thank you, girls. Thank you for your attention.